Scripture today is Luke chapter 19, verses 1 through 10. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but being a short man, he could not because of the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, "Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today." So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. All the people saw this and began to mutter, "He is gone to be the guest of a sinner." But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, "Look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor. And if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount." Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save what was lost."
Often when we study these scriptures and these stories of Jesus, one good way to do that is to take part in the story. That is, to see yourself in the story as one of the characters in the story. And this is a very good way for us to understand the story better and to see how the story relates to our lives. So the real question is, what part of this story do we take? Now, not so much in this story, but in most of the parables, there is a tendency or a desire to be the Jesus character. So, in other words, if we're talking about the story of the lost sheep, we would like to be the shepherd, right? We're the ones who go around and do the right thing and go looking for the lost sheep and what, right? That makes us feel good, right? That doesn't really work for this story, though, does it? Because this isn't a parable. This is a real story. This really happened. If you go to Jericho, there is that sycamore tree right in the middle of town, and it's really there. And so we have to believe that this is a real story that Luke is telling us, that Jesus one day did go through Jericho, and there was a man named Zacchaeus. And perhaps he really did climb that sycamore tree and say this to God. So being Jesus as Jesus, okay, that's a little presumptuous, right? I don't think that'll work. So next, we think of ourselves as Zacchaeus, right? And this makes some sense and works. And we spent most of our Sunday school class talking about this story as if we were Zacchaeus, right? And it works. The story tells us a lot if we are Zacchaeus, because we can see our own selves in how we make bad choices, just as Zacchaeus did in making bad choices about taking advantage of this opportunity he was given to be a tax collector. His salary was to collect additional tax. So he would collect the tax that the Romans required, and then his salary was to tax more than that. So as much money, if he wanted to be dishonest, then the reality was as much money as he could wring out of people, that's how much money he made. And he was clearly very good at this, because it says not only was he a tax collector, but he was a head tax collector. So he wasn't even the one probably going out and actually going house to house collecting the money anymore. He had moved up and had a team under him who were doing the dirty work of going out and really what we would think of today as shaking people down. Kind of like the mob or some kind of gang or something. So, this was the head of the mob, the head of the gang. This is who Jesus saw in the tree and said, "You come down, I'm coming to your house today," right? And so we can see ourselves as Zacchaeus. We can see ourselves as people who have made bad choices, and as we were talking to the kids today about, it's our opportunity now to come searching for God, to come searching for Jesus, to climb up into that sycamore tree, to be seen, to be found, and be given the opportunity to repent, to change our ways. But I want us today to think about ourselves not as Jesus or as Zacchaeus, but as the third party in this group, the crowd. You're thinking, what? There's a third group in this story? Well, there is a third group in this story, right? There's this crowd of people. And they do a few things to Zacchaeus. One, they block Zacchaeus out. They gather along the street and block him out, and he can't see and get in. And the other thing they do is they're a little disgruntled. They complain when they see where Jesus is going for the day. And I think there's a real opportunity here for us to delve into this part of the story and to really think about how are we dealing with the Zacchaeuses of our world. How are we dealing with the people who we think are not worthy, who we think Jesus shouldn't bother with, the people that we blame or discount, that we label and throw away, the people who we oftentimes bury our heads in the sand and ignore. We're so busy worrying about our own salvation, our own lives, our own daily agendas. Who are the people that we don't even see anymore? If you ask a sign company, they will tell you that building a sign in front of your church is the greatest thing since sliced bread and will bring, umpteen people, millions of, but it'll tenfold, it will bring people into your church. You ask a consultant who helps churches, and they will tell you that a sign is great for about a month. And after that month, no one sees it anymore. Yeah, there we go. We just need to rent a sign for a month and then get rid of it and bring it back once a year. Maybe that's the story. Maybe that's the solution to that. Who are the signs in our community? Who are the people that maybe we noticed them once, but we don't even see them anymore? They're there, right? I know they are. I drive around this community. I drive around down the hill through El Cajon, through La Mesa, through San Diego. Who are the people that we drive down those roads and we don't even see anymore? And lastly, I think as a crowd, we hoard our time and our energy. I think we find much more value in our time and energy than we do even in the cash in our hands. When we see a problem, we are much more willing, assuming we have any money, we're much more willing to write a check than we are to go there, to go somewhere and participate. And I think it's just something for us to realize that our time and our energy has value to us. We sometimes don't think about it that way, but I think it's helpful for us to break out of that mold for a moment and realize that we value very highly our time and our energy. I think one of the problems we have with trying to live out our Christian life is that we feel like we have to do some big, amazing thing, right? And don't those make wonderful stories? We read books from authors and we hear these wonderful stories about, this person went to somewhere in Africa and did these great, amazing things. Or somebody, John Wesley or whoever we want to talk about, did these great, amazing things. And they make great stories. But I think there's a reality in the little things. I think there's salvation in the little things. Think about the story we're reading today. Was this a big, momentous, could you write a novel about this? I mean, probably somebody could. But they'd have to make a lot of stuff up. in order to write a novel. They'd have to create a whole backstory for Zacchaeus that we really don't know. It's not a big story. It's not a big event in terms of grandiose gestures and time and energy. It was a single day, a single action. And I really think we need to find value in those moments. And that's what we really need to focus on. We don't need to be discouraged because we can't go to Africa and change that world. Or we can't start a new church or a new university or anything, a new hospital or whatever, some big grandiose move. That may be beyond our ability. But there are a lot of things that are not beyond our ability. We need to try simply in our day-to-day lives to not judge or to not prejudge. To realize that often, if we're serious and think about it, often our first impressions are wrong. And yet, how many choices do we make in our day based on those first impressions? A simple thing can really change who we are, change our lives. And perhaps we just need to pay attention. Perhaps we just need to break out of our daily routines. What is your daily routine? You wake up and, what do you do first? What do you do second? What do you do third? Where do you go? How many of us are in those routines of we do basically the same thing? Maybe it's every Tuesday we do the same thing and every Wednesday we do the same thing. But somewhere in there's a routine. Break it up. Do something different. We need to wake up. I was asked this week, they were talking about a new theme for this annual conference. What theme should we have? And that was the theme that the one person was sharing with me. They just want to put it on a big banner. Wake up! Charge your engines. Wake up. Get going. Think about life in a different way. Interact today differently. Make a different choice. Break out of your mold. Don't look for Jesus just in the grandiose gestures. Look for this in the everyday. Connect with others. Connect with people that you don't normally connect with as you go through your daily routines or your weekly routines. Look for somebody who you would otherwise have not even noticed and go pay attention to them for a moment. Give up some of that valuable time and energy you have. Be purposeful in it. I can almost guarantee you it won't come back to bite you. I can't guarantee you it won't. I can't guarantee you that person that you decide to interact with isn't going to try and hog all of your time. But I can tell you it's worth the effort. It's worth the effort to connect. Because that is really what our community, our world, our culture is missing. Why do you think Facebook and Twitter are so popular? It's because we miss the one-on-one interactions we have with each other. Families move and itinerate far more than they ever did, even when I was a kid. They move to different states, different communities, where they are now isolated and don't know anyone. But we all have that need within us. We believe in a Trinity God, a God of relationships, a God who is defined by being in a relationship. That's what the Trinity really tells us and really means. God in three parts, but one. That God is by definition in relationship. And we, as being made in the Creator's image, are by definition relational. That's why the greatest commandment is to love to be in relationship the Lord your God, and to love, to be in relationship with your neighbors. It's such a strong desire that even when it doesn't seem possible or it seems too difficult to do in real life, people are doing it online now. Because it is such a strong desire within us. And that desire comes from God. It's a real thing. So we need to stop being the crowd. We need to stop being the people who are shutting others out and need to be the people who are connecting God's love to them. We need to go seeking out the Zacchaeuses in the world around us. Because we know that from time to time we are those Zacchaeuses, right? It's easy for us to identify with Zacchaeus in this story. But we need to realize that there are others in our community, in our families, in this world around us who are Zacchaeus. And we need to help them connect to God's love as well. We need to wake up. And we need to look for the low people in high places. Amen?
Quite a shirt, Andrew.